I never thought I'd be stopped at my stepdaughter's wedding until she told me, "You're not on the list." And in that moment, everything changed. What I did next? Let's just say, she got the shock of her life. The wedding hall was buzzing with excitement. Guests were chatting, laughter filled the air, and flowers adorned every corner. But I wasn't part of it. Not officially. Not according to the list. My wife had stopped me at the entrance, shaking her head. "You're not on the list," she said, her tone calm but firm. I felt a chill run down my spine, not because of rejection, but because of clarity. She thought I would leave quietly. She thought I would bow down to her rules. She had no idea I was already planning my move. I stood there silently, observing everything. The stepdaughter laughing, showing off her arrogance. The family preening, unaware of the storm quietly forming. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet, calculated, and impossible to stop once it begins. And that day, my revenge had just begun. I stepped aside, blending into the crowd. No shouting, no confrontation, just observation. She flaunted her arrogance openly. Her smile, her laughter, her confidence, every detail I noted carefully. My mind worked silently. Every reaction she had, every careless word she spoke, every assumption about me, all of it was fuel for the plan. I didn't act immediately. Patience was key. Revenge is not about speed, it's about precision. I began noticing weaknesses in her plans, who she trusted, what she relied on, the small cracks in her carefully built world. The wedding was perfect for her, but perfect for me too. By the end of the evening, the first seeds of my calculated moves were planted. A quiet note, a subtle tweak, an unseen action. Small, invisible, yet deadly effective. She didn't suspect a thing. Her arrogance blinded her, and that was my advantage.
Days passed, but the wedding night lingered in my mind. I noticed small things, tiny cracks in her perfect facade. The way she ignored people, the arrogance in her voice, the carelessness in her movements. I didn't act loudly. Every move was subtle, unnoticed, almost invisible. I started sending small signals. A phone call here, a quiet conversation there, little reminders of reality slipping under her perfect world. She laughed, oblivious. She thought everything was under control. But control is an illusion, one that can vanish in a blink. Her father occasionally glanced at me, unsure of my calm presence. He didn't see the plan forming quietly, the chess game unfolding. I walked past her casually, letting my presence be a silent shadow. Every confident step she took, I counted, observed, noted. By the end of the week, the first real hints of the impending chaos started reaching her. A misplaced paper here, a confused glance there. Nothing dramatic, but enough to make her start questioning. And that little seed of doubt, it was just the beginning.
The weekend arrived, and the first move was ready. I had quietly arranged everything in advance, small, seemingly innocent actions that no one would notice. She was busy enjoying the wedding, laughing, flaunting her arrogance, unaware that her world was quietly shifting. I signed the documents, just a few papers, a few signatures. And in that moment, control shifted silently. No one noticed, no alarms, no chaos, just the quiet power of calculated action. Her father glanced at me, curiosity mixed with unease. I smiled faintly, letting him see nothing, feel nothing. She wandered through the hall, confident as ever, but I had planted the first seeds of doubt, confusion, and panic. By the time she noticed the subtle changes, misplaced papers, slight irregularities, it would be too late. Revenge doesn't need noise. It works best when it's invisible, slowly, quietly, inevitably. And that day, the first ripple of reality began to touch her perfect little world.
The wedding continued, but something had shifted. She laughed at her friends' jokes, but her smile wavered. She checked her phone repeatedly, noticing minor confusions she couldn't explain. A misplaced envelope, a subtle hesitation from the staff. Small things, invisible to anyone else, but glaringly obvious to her. I watched quietly from a corner, my calm presence like a shadow in the room. Her confidence began to falter. Her arrogance, once unshakable, showed the first cracks. Her laughter became a little forced. Her steps grew unsure. She didn't know what was happening. She only felt something was wrong. A quiet tension, like a whisper of chaos creeping into her perfect day. That's the beauty of subtle revenge. No shouting, no confrontation, just small, undeniable truths that slowly consumed the target. By the end of the evening, her facade had weakened. She glanced around, searching for answers. She couldn't see the plan forming quietly, but she felt its impact. And that feeling, that creeping doubt, was just the beginning of what was coming.
By now, the first cracks had widened. She glanced around nervously, noticing things she couldn't explain. A misplaced envelope, a confused glance from a staff member. Small, subtle signs, but enough to make her question reality. Her confidence wavered. Her steps became uncertain. Her laughter faded into forced smiles. I remained calm, moving silently through the background. Every subtle shift, every flicker of doubt in her eyes, it was proof the plan was working. She tried to regain control, speaking louder, laughing more, but it felt hollow. Guests continued enjoying the celebrations, oblivious to the storm brewing in her mind. Her father caught my eye briefly, realizing the calm in my demeanor hid something powerful. I nodded faintly, letting him sense the weight of the situation without revealing a thing. Panic was subtle, creeping in quietly, but it was inevitable. By the time she fully realized the consequences of her arrogance, it would be too late. And that feeling of helplessness, of losing control, was exactly what I wanted her to experience.
Her panic grew with every passing moment. She checked her phone again and again, trying to find answers. Why is this happening?" she muttered, voice trembling. Her friends noticed her unease, but assumed it was wedding stress. I walked closer, calm, silent, letting my presence dominate the room. She didn't see me as a threat, yet. "You're not on the list," she whispered to herself, fear creeping into her voice. Her father glanced at her nervously, unsure how to help. I stayed silent. No words, no gestures. Sometimes the quietest moves create the loudest impact. Her mind raced, piecing together the small irregularities she had ignored before. Every misplaced paper, every delayed response, every subtle shift in reality, it all pointed to one truth. Her perfect day was no longer under her control. She looked at me finally, panic clear in her eyes. What have you done?" she stammered. I smiled faintly. "Nothing yet," I said. "Just letting reality catch up to you." By the end of the evening, her confidence had shattered. Her arrogance was replaced by doubt and fear. And that feeling of helplessness was the first real taste of revenge.
By now, the first subtle signs had grown into undeniable reality. She realized her name wasn't on the official documents. The guests, the seating, even the gifts, everything confirmed it. She had assumed control of the day, but control had slipped from her fingers. Her panic turned into desperation. What is happening?" she whispered, eyes wide with fear. Her father tried to intervene. "We can fix this, right?" he stammered.
But the truth was clear. Nothing could undo the plan now. I stepped forward calmly, letting her feel the weight of the consequences. "No one fixed anything," I said softly, "because some lessons must be learned on their own." Her arrogance melted into regret. Her laughter, confidence, and composure were gone. She understood, painfully, that words and actions have consequences, especially when underestimated. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to shout or attack. The subtlety of my actions, the quiet precision, was enough to break her perfectly built illusion. By the end of the night, the stepdaughter had learned the full cost of her arrogance. And I had delivered justice, silent, calculated, and unforgettable.
The wedding was over, but the chaos in her mind had just begun. She sat alone, overwhelmed, realizing how everything had slipped away from her control. Her arrogance, her confidence, her laughter, all replaced by fear and regret. Her father approached cautiously, worried. I don't understand," he murmured. She shook her head, unable to speak. Everything had changed in a few hours. I remained calm, observing quietly. No one needed to know the full extent of the plan. The emotional impact was enough. Every guest who had celebrated her arrogance now faded into the background. Her panic and regret filled the space, crushing her from within. She had demanded control. She had demanded arrogance. And now she was powerless. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need confrontation. The quiet precision of my actions had done all the work. By the end of the night, the stepdaughter understood. Words have weight, arrogance has consequences, and some lessons are unforgettable.
The wedding had ended, but the lesson lingered. I walked calmly toward the exit, leaving the hall behind. The stepdaughter sat in silence, tears streaking her face, realizing the full weight of her arrogance. Her father watched helplessly, understanding that some lessons cannot be fixed. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The subtle, calculated moves, the signed papers, the quiet shifts in reality, the small, unnoticed changes had done everything. Her perfect day, built on arrogance and disregard, had crumbled quietly, irreversibly. She had told me I wasn't on the list. I wasn't invited. She thought it didn't matter. But I disappeared, in the way she never expected. Silent, calculated, complete. Her panic, her regret, her helplessness, all reminders of the price of arrogance and disrespect. And with that, the plan was complete. Revenge delivered. Justice served. I left quietly, knowing the impact would remain. Unseen, unforgettable, undeniable.